And welcome. This is Wide Awake News. I am not Charlie McGrath. My name is Doug Owen. I'm the senior editor of blacklistednews.com. Some of you may know me. I used to run a radio network called Oracle Broadcasting. Many of the guests and people that are on the Rents Radio Network have been part of that at some point or time. I'm happily retired and always good to give analysis and be able to guest host shows like this. So I feel honored and privileged, and I want to thank our gracious host, of course, Charlie McGrath, and his right-hand man, Gary Hendershot, who is behind the scenes, tweaking the dials, keeping everything going, and, of course, all the other people that make it part of their daily stop and listening to this show. So a lot of things I want to talk about. We'll probably entertain phone calls towards the end of the show if you have questions or maybe corrections for me, critiques, counter views, counterpoints. Always love to entertain those and to start a conversation. That's really what it's about, I think, with talk radio. And that's really what I miss about doing it on a daily basis is having that continuous conversation. Though I always extend that out to the people that are in my inner circle, of course, your family and the people around you that in these crazy and very dangerous times we may have to look towards and each other, which is a very, very scary prospect considering the state of affairs in this country. And if you drive to a Walmart parking lot, you have to wonder about our brethren and sisterin and other human beings on planet Earth. But don't, humanity, don't jump on board with the eugenics bandwagon. Some of you may have heard that in California, a prison, they were sterilizing women. Harkens back to a very brutal and cruel time in this nation when we had strict sterilization laws. And those ran up all the way to the 1970s. In North Carolina, they were still sterilizing black women. I know, just 40 years ago. It's kind of mind-boggling. So a lot's happened in just the last few days, and we're always bombarded with crazy, wild stories. So I love to discuss these topics. I think we may have Charlie McGrath jumping in the conversation as well tonight. Florida accidentally banned all computers, smartphones in the throughout the state, rather, and through an internet cafe lawsuit. Yeah, so don't look to political figures for salvation. Do not trust those in the government to necessarily protect you and help you out. Yeah, I see the back channel. I see maybe, possibly, hooking up here with Charlie McGrath. Do we have the host of Wide Awake News with us?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm getting a weird feedback.
Really? Sound good on this end.
You sound good too. How you doing, Doug Owen?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I know what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a feedback of the program in the chat, I do believe.
Aha. Yeah, that'll do.
I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm going to tell you something right now. It is freaking hot in Lincoln, Nebraska right now. You get like 104 today.
You know, I can sympathize. It's been in the hundreds here. Last weekend, I was in Las Vegas, 117 degrees, but I was unimpressed. I have to admit, and I'll put this out there, it's nothing like the humid heat that you'll get in Houston, that you'll get in Austin, and other places that are near bodies of water. Yeah. Totally different. 117 felt like 100.
No,
Same thing with Phoenix.
I get it. I live in Montana. You live in Texas, obviously. And you're in Austin. And you know what? That's not by the water, is it?
Yeah, there's a big lake. Lots of rivers. Lots of water.
Okay, is there an ocean?
There is on one side of Texas. It's about 4 hours from where I sit, though. But it does feed into the ocean there.
Okay. Well, there's a swimming pool by my house, so it's really humid.
Yeah. Well, and so is Houston and a lot of these other areas. I mean, there's tons of irrigation and farming, and so it's just a little bit different climate. But if you go west towards El Paso, my friend, it is dry and harsh, and you can use swamp coolers. I know in Montana you guys are able to do that as well. But we're having a lot of chit chat about the weather here with a lot of people listening.
Well, the weather's always important, especially when you're stuck in the middle of it. But it is very dry in Montana. However, I got to Lincoln today, and the humidity is about 70% here, or at least it was in Omaha when I landed, and 104. So it was horrendous. And I was in Wisconsin and Minneapolis earlier in the week, and that is the land of billions of lakes. So I've been stuck in humidity all week long. But I digress. We are talking about weather. Thank you very much for
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Doug Owen has got the cool stuff. You and Gary Hendershot have all the cool stuff, and I have nothing but an old crappy laptop and a Holiday Inn in the middle of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Hey, see, I need somebody like Gary to reel me in when I'm jumping off the diving board into the proverbial empty pool. So. Yeah, Gary's
all about playing lifeguard, no doubt. Although last night his program I received about Gary. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I've received no less than 4 or 5 emails about audio issues, and I really want to. I can't wait till I can talk to you in person and bust your chops about that because you like to give me grief when I'm technically challenged.
Yeah.
So I'll get even with him. Doug, how you been? What's in the news? I feel like I've been disconnected for the last couple of days because, like I said, I've been traveling all over the Midwest, trying to drum up business, trying to play the hope-tomistic game. And you know what? My what we talk about on the program all the time, and what I talk about in the videos is, and I put one out today. Everything is hope-tomism. There's no great recovery here. There's no great recovery coming. I know there's a lot of activity, and there's people scurrying around just waiting for things to break loose. But what I've been seeing over the last several days proves out the point that we're in a control economy. It's all based on what the Fed is doing as far as buying debt and interest rates being low. But there is no spectacular.
They have a plan, Charlie. You didn't hear about it. It is the bail-in plan, and this.
I've heard about the bail.
This is to transfer maybe the second greatest transfer of wealth in human history. But don't worry, it's not going to hurt those 1 out of 6 people that are on food stamps because they're not paying taxes anyway. And if they rely on the SNAP program or something else that is highly politicized. You never know how long it'll be around or how long they will fund it. You never know who's going to win in 2016 or how austerity will play out in this country. And so, there's a lot of things that are happening in that. I mean, you look at what's happening in Egypt. Here's the solution. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates are giving $8 billion to the central bank. So you don't have to You don't have to have George Soros and Hillary Clinton and John Kerry when he's not absent on a yacht, just like Charlie McGrath out vacationing when Egypt's on fire and he's on the kayak going out to the skiff, then to get onto the yacht, on and on and on. So that's a big story that just ineptness and people not really caring too much. Do we have a break coming up here, Gary? Let's see.
We have a break here in about 30 seconds. But
I want to invite people to call in if you want to join the discussion. 877-342-6673. And if you're awesome, Gary says he will tell us that you're on the line. So,
and I want to talk a little bit about bail-in when we come back too.
Absolutely, take us out, Charlie.
All right, we'll be back with Doug Owen and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a minute. Please hang tight. I'll see you guys in chat.
Well, welcome back. This is Wide Awake News. I am guest hosting and co-hosting now with Charlie McGrath, who is on location, out and about, and well, he is ensconced in his hotel room and being part of the show. We're taking phone calls if you'd like. Let me see. I got that number here. Let's see. What is it?
877-342-6673.
Well, you know it.
877-342-6673.
So yeah, but before the break, we were talking about the different ways to create a solution to what I think all of us agree is a problem that was created. There was awareness that these situations were happening before the explosion and the consolidation of wealth into that system. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we were talking about it, and you brought up something that everybody better get used to it. You know, we've been talking about it for a little bit now, ever since Cyprus and the continued decline of Greece and Europe. And by the way, Greece is back in the headlines on the verge again. I caught that story today. But that is bail in. Bail in. You know, forget about bail out. You know, forget about gay marriage. Forget about NSA. Forget about IRS. Forget about all these scandals that are being put into the mainstream media for one reason and one reason only, because the year is 2013, rapidly approaching 2014, midterm elections, followed by the next the big one for blue team or red team in the House. All these in the White House rather. All these topics that are coming to the forefront now. The alternative, I should say, independent media. Doug, we've been talking about these for years. You know, the IRS spying on people, the NSA spying on people, your emails this isn't news. This is being put out there to keep the division between red and blue states going strong. The real news you touched on in that first segment. Get ready. Bail in is going to be the real story, the real news. Forget about drones flying. We know they're coming. We know they're here. The news that isn't being talked about is the what is going to be sold as something shocking and something new, something out of the blue, which is the next economic implosion. 2008 was a warm-up. What's coming next isn't going to be 2008. It's going to be something a whole lot different and a whole lot worse for the average Jane and Joe six-pack, Doug.
Well, it depends. I mean, it could just be a large deleverage through very complex agreements, a pancake across the board where you see each country, interdependence and globalization on display here. I mean, this is, almost personified because each and every person has to pay for the misdeeds of government. And so rather than putting all of that pressure on, say, your bank that should fail because it's conducting fraud, because of all of the other investors, bondholders, it's with central banks. I mean, the government and who it's behest to in the current model. And so, these things can be redistributed. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take all of these toxic assets, all of the insolvency in these banks, and they're trying to front run it to create growth, to create, according to people smarter than myself, like James Rickards, deflation, or that they're trying to create inflation, but they're actually getting deflation.
Right.
That you have that argument that's going on. But at the end of the day, what's happening is they're changing the legal framework so that it's a bail-in. So people all pay that. Then you're going to have that subservience because you're not going to have wealthy, independent people that are able to counter this machine any longer. Because right now, there's plenty of examples of groups and charismatic, rich people that have changed politics. Mark Cuban's an example of that. He almost did that, and he was told to shut up. But actors in this culture, people like that have spoken out. And Russell Brand, he's becoming this internet star, just speaking a little truth to power and having fame and notoriety and being British, We need, I guess, American people we need foreigners to tell us how bad our policies, domestic policies, and foreign policy is in this country. So, that's what I see happening with all of this, is that instead of having something that's going to be a big boom, it's going to be just a huge transitioning and re-leveraging and forcing people to stay in these different investments for the long haul. And you see that, we're having a huge shift in housing and most of the staples of the economy in this country. And the numbers are in, and they're not good, Charlie. They're not good.
What do you mean? What do you mean shift? Like in housing, let's take housing for an example. Because I agree with your analysis right there. But I think if you play that out a little bit more, it brings us to the end goal. I think you're right. They know that this massive change.
I think we've got a Skype burp, or I'm getting knocked offline here.
Well, I think somebody in about 3 rooms up in the motel where Charlie's staying is probably watching some porn, and it knocked Charlie right off.
That could very well be the case, considering. So we'll just go from there. But to look back at housing for a moment, and I think I know where Charlie was going with that. But it is a great way to measure growth. The whole economy, our economy today, is based on growth, not necessarily a great model. Are we going to survive the Industrial Revolution? Well, that is a question that I will pose to your host, Charlie McGrath, on the other side of this quick commercial break. You're listening to the Rents Radio Network. Stay tuned. And we're waiting for Charlie McGrath, who will be back with us momentarily. The Wi-Fi knocked out there in Lincoln, Nebraska. I just got back from a vacation. I hadn't taken one in 7 years. And if Vegas is a good metric of how the economy is doing, I would say the high priests of society have been able to keep the perception management that's required to keep the dollar strong and to keep these currency wars afloat, and really keep the public talking about all of the different non-issues of the day. I mean, I've got 10 of them here that people might want to note. Russia-China joint naval exercise begins in the Sea of Japan. Yeah, look into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This is the counterbalance to NATO. NATO, of course, they've got problems. They've got chemical weapons, a lot of them. And they've been found in Syria. And nobody believes the United States and or Mossad and the Jordanian, UAE, or Saudi Arabian governments that are piling weapons into this country. It is creating pure genocide. It is so abhorrent that this is happening, and the American people are silent. Do you see anyone protesting in the streets? The war in Syria? No. A few people in our government have delayed payments to Al Qaeda, delayed them. Now the same government is urging the same cell phone providers that are spying on you for the NSA and all the corporate backers and investors in your big data experiment, so they can socially engineer your ideas and your buying habits. Those same people are being encouraged by the government to be a little stricter with Obama phones. Apparently, you can just go get an Obama phone and set up shop in the black market. That is one of the saving graces here in this country, the black market. That was one of the saving graces in 2008 with the bust, with the huge economic and housing melees. The saving grace, HSBC and drug money. So, and that's admitted. And HSBC paying $1.92 billion for that indictment this week. It's not bad. You can kill people if you've got enough money. Just ask O.J. Simpson. Ayo. Do we have Charlie with us?
We do, and you're right. Enough money. You're tuning. HSBC this slap on the wrist, this $1 billion fine, it'll be sold as the largest in history, yada yada. But in reality, the same people. Look, Doug Owen, if you had some SWAT team in Austin, Texas, kick in your studio door right now, and you were found to have an ounce or 2 ounces of pot, which I'm sure you wouldn't, but if you did, you know what? You're probably going to go away for a long time. But if you're HSBC, murder, kill, support drug cartels, launder their money, literally be responsible for the financial transactions of the death of people, scores to hundreds, maybe thousands, millions. Who knows? People are literally dying by your actions, and you'll get a DOJ official saying something along the lines of, "Still, they're too big to prosecute. They're too big to fail." Let's just be honest. They are the government. These institutions are the government, and
that's fascism, Charlie. That's fascism, where you have the state, the bank, and all of the companies working together in one group. Mussolini spoke of this.
Yeah, it's not even cool fascism, though. It's not even the fascism where you have this nationalistic a fervor to it, right? And I say that tongue in cheek, of course. But it's not the sort of Mussolini fascism where everybody rallied to the state and the state controlled industry. It's exactly the opposite. It's the industry that is that is the government, so you have a dysfunctional populace that is about to rip itself apart because they hate each other at every turn, thanks to propaganda, thanks to corporate-owned media. We sit here and we fight about, the next Roe v. Wade or the next gay rights judgment from the Supreme Court. And
or maybe a rape. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, this whole George Zimmerman trial, Broward County Sheriff's Office put out a statement saying that they are preparing for the verdict. They're preparing for riots if Zimmerman is acquitted, which I still don't understand why anybody cares. In Romland this weekend, 63 people shot, in Chi-Town, Chicago. This isn't Afghanistan. This isn't Iraq, which is a mess. And we could talk about Afghanistan. It's back in the headlines. The new exit strategy, which means, I don't even want to get, before you know it, they're going to be talking about another surge. Remember the surge? I think
they're just going to walk away, buddy. I think they're going to. I think it's such a quagmire now. A dozen years.
$70 billion worth of equipment. $70 billion worth of equipment. They're going to be leaving Karzai and all of their Taliban warlord friends that will be.
You know what? And here's the thing: it's even worse than that. I did a piece on this here a while ago. They're hiring help. They're hiring labor from Nepal to come over with super highly advanced plasma torches to cut up $1 million anti-bomb proof vehicles that we had to have 25,000 of, but we're going to cut up 2,000 of them and just leave them in containers that the American taxpayer also own, and then bury them in the sand in the middle of Afghanistan because we've destabilized the region so thoroughly that everybody hates us, including the guaranteed hatred that's going to be felt by the United States and the American people by the next government of Afghanistan, whoever that may be. So we can't leave them equipment because if we do, it's going to end up killing Americans.
Well, I don't understand why we can't just move it to the new militarized border that they're going to be spending billions of dollars on. See, it's a war over there. Now we have a war over here. We got a war there. Well, and you have.
When I looked this story, into this billion or multi-billion-dollar buried in the sand program, I actually found a quote from a 4-star general who was brave enough to say the truth, which is that they're worried about putting all this equipment onto the market because what it'll do to the military industry, because all this cheap equipment flooding the market would drive down the prices and negatively impact the economy in the field of military-industrial complex. So
it's just threats. It's terror threats. It's economic terrorism 101. You're going to lose your job if we don't buy or build more bombs to kill kids. Your kids won't eat. It's this sick rationale that I hear people just regurgitate over and over again the lesser of evils, and really it's the whole not in my backyard mentality that has got us here, and you have to kind of own up to it, at least on a adult level, and then you can move forward past this. But it is so frustrating because so many people get caught in that over and over again. It's like,
oh yeah,
I mean, it's this disproportionate amount of priority. There are certain priorities that you should take much higher than worrying about an Al Qaeda bomber in the United States. Even if we didn't have the Department of Homeland Security and one person died every year or every day, they blew up one person or 10 people or even 100 people. It pales in comparison to car wrecks and cancer, and that's going down as well, or even gun death. I mean, it's ridiculous. But we have this very, very controlled view of what's happening and what's important in this country, and that is the mind killer, isn't it?
Are you there, buddy?
Yeah. I was just saying.
Okay. I just on my end it cut out for a minute, but you're right. The things that we're being led to focus on, and you know what, I've been for a little bit saying this feels like 2007 again, and it's amazing to me. Well,
okay, so I have to ask you. Okay, so here's the tangible. Right now at $19, do you think that silver is a huge buy? Is it something that you would invest in? And I don't sell silver, but I look at all the metrics, and so most people believe that there's something huge going to happen. Max Kaiser was predicting back in April that there would be bond apocalypse. It's not looking good for bonds, for sure. And never before have we seen just this huge decline in such a short amount of time, or at least not in the last decade, in prices in metals.
Yeah,
let's pick that up on the other side. I hear this break coming in real quickly.
Right.
More with Charlie McGrath, your host, right here on Wide Awake News. Welcome back. This is Wide Awake News on the Rents Radio Network. Doug Owen, guest hosting alongside momentarily here, and Charlie McGrath once again. So he is in Lincoln, Nebraska. And if you need good internet and cell phone service, I don't suggest you move there. Don't they have Google Fiber? No, I think that might be Kansas. You're in Nebraska. Kansas City.
I'm telling you right now, I thought, living in Montana, that if I had solid internet connection in Bozeman, Montana, and actually anywhere, any of the main interstate corridors, you have solid internet connection. I thought if we had it here, everybody had it. And I'm telling you right now, if you live in the middle of Wisconsin or Nebraska or Minnesota, you might as well have a rotary phone.
Yeah. There's something to be said for that. I mean, a rotary phone can only watch you so much, Charlie McGrath. Smartphone can harvest your whole life and really tell a lot about you to all of the people that run those companies and in government that are really interested in whether or not maybe you should own a firearm. They love you and care about your mental health, and so that way they can help you to make sure you're safe.
I want to get your take on that, because it is shocking what Snowden has managed to the stuff coming out, especially about the foreign surveillance, right? I mean, what's going on with when they're collecting this megadata on your emails and your text messaging. That isn't a shock to me at all. Not even in the slightest little bit. In fact, I would dare say it's not to you, but I am somewhat enthralled and kind of taken back with the absolute covert nature of everything now when it comes to how we treat our so-called allies. And these are central banking allies. And that's how I truly gauge the depth of the relationship. Is do we have the same vampire squid controlling us as they do that nation? That makes them an ally. But the amount of spying that's going on between nations, the paranoia, the absolute disregard for sovereignty. That was kind of shocking to me with this whole release that Snowden has brought to us.
Maybe to a lot of people, but I look back to some of the more wacky things that the intelligence agencies have done in the past. Operation Acoustic Kitty comes to mind. They basically took a cat and cut it open, put a microphone and a transmission device in it, and actually turned its tail into an antenna. And they planned on putting it in a park in St. Petersburg and listening to Russians, and in the hopes and dreams of maybe getting some kind of intel that they could use for political power and leverage, and all of those things that are well admitted. So you move forward. That's what, 70 years. I don't remember. It was in the 60s. It's been a while. You move
Cold War
forward.
stuff.
You move forward, and we have basically computers in our hands, and it's no different. It's just, instead of it's a cat that they chopped up, it's your phone, and I say that because that's, if they would do that, and they thought this seems reasonable, at least a few people. It's indicative of what is happening now, and the same type of people. I mean, go back to Hoover. I mean, he was a cross-dresser that blackmailed everyone. That was his thing. And he was one of the many pioneers in this industry. Corporate espionage, stealing ideas, trade secrets. It happens all the time. That's what's, China is fueling their military-industrial complex. Nobody seems worried about all of these weapons contracts or plans, rather, that are going into China. We don't have a huge issue with that. But Snowden, this guy's a traitor. We now have this international manhunt for Snowden, but it's very passive aggressive, and it's being used as a proxy against Russia. So that's what I think really all of this is about. Whether or not the original leak and how that was controlled through The Guardian, the role of WikiLeaks, and some very suspicious things that have happened to other reporters and whistleblowers. I would say Michael Hastings. Some really interesting stuff from the heat from this car crash that turned into a fireball. But that's kind of a side note. And mainstream media is talking about.
Not really. I mean, he was. And I know Gary covered this as well. He was going to, one of his last conversations was he was going to talk about a release of new information, and then all of a sudden he's in a car wreck that gets him hotter than the surface of the sun,
right.
and it's just passed over, and
it just seems to me
really
that
talks about it. But
you don't want to talk to WikiLeaks because Bradley Manning gave information to WikiLeaks. Look at where he's at. Edward Snowden
came out today. The at least it's a preliminary. I've read a couple articles on it, and they're talking about.
Think that this is I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Sorry.
Okay. They're coming out now today talking about new measures to have government employees spy on one another in order to prevent this kind of the whistleblower activity that we've seen. And it is just, Doug Owen, it is just so twisted, that instead of even considering the information that's coming out and the desire that some are having to turn themselves into whistleblowers because they can't stomach the action of government anymore, we have a media and a government that is, instead of, looking at the actions of themselves, they're trying to figure out how to continue this action, can not only continue it, but make it even worse, and make it more gulag style police state.
Right.
But trying to publicize how they're going to stamp out these whistleblowers. Like, telling the truth is suddenly the number one crime against the state. We've seen it before in history, right? I mean, we're going down that road.
Hey guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got tired of waiting for you guys to cue me, so I went ahead and told Brett to let Meat Dog come in, let him have his say. You guys,
my bad,
you guys will take the whole 57 minutes if we don't give him a chance.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Meat Dog.
Hey, I'm on the air now.
Yes, sir.
Roll with it, buddy. Roll with it.
Hey, thanks. Hey, I appreciate it. Let me call in. Listen, I just wanted to get your input on Egypt, and if I can put in my 2 cents. Obviously, Mubarak is a Western puppet, and Morsi is as well. The Muslim Brotherhood goes back, to post-World War II, being funded and probably trained by British intel. And to me, it looks like, tyrants, Western-backed tyrants in third world countries are like shark's teeth. As soon as they get tired of one, they bring in another one. And what I'm afraid of, and I want y'all to talk about this, is I'm afraid that the Mossad and CIA are going to start setting off bombs all over Egypt and destabilize it, and it's going to wind up being another Iraq. What's y'all's opinion on the fate of Egypt? It doesn't look good one way or the other.
Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I mean, the investments there, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, I mean, on a purely monetary look, they care about it. They see profit. They see the ability of the state to tax, and the state has to be around to tax to pay off those bets. So that's kind of good in a sort of macabre way. It means that they don't want to completely have an overthrow like what we're seeing. That is the obvious agenda in Syria. The fate, I think, remains in the people's hands ultimately. But the military coup that has happened, and/or the continual process of revolution. I think it's hard for us as Westerners, including myself, especially, to make judgments, because some of the things that Morsi was trying to institute were very draconian, martial law and state of emergency. But we see that here in the United States, so it's hard for me to put more pressure on him for doing those things. LBJ did it during the Watts riots. There's a lot of perspective there. When we demonize others for their actions, when you're absolutely right. Many of these tactics and the training, the military training, came from the CIA, came from the Mossad. I mean, right now, the Libyans, the new government, they're being trained by the British. That was actually an article that just came out today. So, I mean, this is just a continuation of those imperialistic, powers. And Egypt's important because you have Israel. I think that they do want security there, but they've always used Egypt as an ally. I think that they want it to continue to be an ally. It's a neighbor to Israel, and traditionally the U.S. and Israel, since the 70s, have had relatively decent relationship. Some of those treaties, I think, are very important to Israel as well. So if they are the people to please in the region, and I think that they are, or at least they have a very vocal, irate few that's well paid, and many on the take, and many that pay lip service just because they fear being ostracized.
Hey guys, I hate to keep interrupting, but with only about a minute and a half left, I think you guys had a website URL that you were intent on promoting. So this is your official nudge.
Yeah, well, the Doomcast is a great idea, and thanks for the call. Appreciate it. So long term, in Egypt, I hate to pontificate on it too long, but that's we'll see. I think they want stability.
I'm going to give a 10-second answer. We destabilize the Middle East. Egypt is going to be destabilized. I think you're absolutely right to be worried about watching something explode over there, because sure. I think that nation has a lot of central bank money invested in it, and you notice the nations that are fighting the central banks, you don't have this kind of turmoil between a Western-backed government, puppet government, and the people. The people are hungry. They're spending everything they got to put food on the table. It's going to continue to be a very, very troubled region, and we certainly could see it escalate. Go ahead, Doug Owen.
Yeah, well, Doomcast.com is going to be the website where Charlie and myself will do an hour podcast monthly. So we'll continue with these conversations, doing that. Absolutely. And really excited.
I'm excited. Doug and I came up with the name last night. We're going to try to Doomcast, and unlike even though the name sounds ominous, we're going to try to lighten things up once a month and look at the topics and look at the subject, but with a little bit of a humoristic view, because if we're too negative all the time, then life's just not worth living. Doug Owen, thank you very much for hanging out and hosting the program tonight. I greatly appreciate it. Doug's website, blacklistednews.com. Please stay tuned for Jeff Ren's. He's coming up next.